Hey, welcome back to the Ready State. This is our mobilization of the week. So in a lot of our positions that we work on, what we call our archetypes, which are really the bookends of human function, especially since they map really well with a lot of our classic movement traditions, strength and conditioning, gymnastics, Olympic lifting, track and field. One of the nice things is that we can start to subdivide some of these shapes around the shoulder into what we call long lever or short lever, which means, is the arm straight or is the arm bent? So if my arms are out and straight in front of my body, you can see I'm in what we call our front rack position, or this would be start for a plank. As soon as I bend the elbow, the shoulder organization remains the same and the requirements of rotation remain the same. But the only difference is, suddenly with the bent elbow, I've changed the muscular system and the fascial system. So we look at a little bit differently what's happening with long lever and short lever. And we've talked before about how athletes sometimes will go from long lever shapes and default to short lever shapes as a way of compensation when they need to be locking out or developing this control sort of proximally or at the shoulder head. But one of our favorite mobilizations, and we've been doing this, I think the first time we put up 2009, is that we are trying to work on this end range position of flexion of the shoulder, but this time with the elbow bent. So short lever overhead. And if you imagine throwing something, a medicine ball in, swinging a mace, you'll be in these positions. Even if you grabbed a plate and did something like a halo, one of the reasons we've got to be in this position is we're looking at competency in these overhead shapes. So if I'm swinging or slamming something, that's certainly going to matter. And what you'll see is that this overhead position was actually trained in our bodybuilding days. You remember that old, in the gym, you do those pullovers? Well, that's, imagine what they were doing. They were going from this overhead flexion into a little bit more range, moving towards extension and backwards. So one of our favorites, again, is short lever overhead. And there are a couple ways to make this better. So don't just get into the position. I'm going to load this on the elbow, and my hand's going to go to the outside. Because what I want to do is make sure that I'm thinking about rotation in the shoulder. If my hand goes on the top, what's going to happen is the elbow is going to flare out, and I will not actually be taking the shoulder near that bookmark or book end of position. So with this external rotation, I can load this thing, and you can feel the difference between having hand on the outside and hand over the top. This is what we call a torque dump or a tension dump. So suddenly, it's like turning your feet out, and it's a lot easier to get into that shape. So when I squat, feet are straight. When I turn my feet out, oh, it's so easy to get in that shape. Same thing with the hand. So again, what we're trying to do is make sure that we're spending time in a complete position. I also have the access of being able to pull the elbow in tight and guide this into a little bit more formal flexion. So formal position is this arm straight up and down. You can see I'm not straight up and down. So I pull the hand in. I can load this now, keep the hand on the outside. I can even turn away using the band to create a little bit of movement option, right? Because the band is creating some tension. So it's almost like I'm biasing into this external rotated position. Now, the key here is that you'll see that most people will adopt a single stance. So in this position of my left foot forward, I'm in a shortened fascial position. As soon as I do this, my brain says, I don't like that, because I'm requiring a lot more of the system to come on tension in this position. So changing or stacking your archetypes, this way I'm in a lunge shape, elbow in tight, palm to the outside. I can also work on keeping my rib cage down. And look what the compensation here is. If I'm pressing overhead and I'm short or restricted or don't have access to this position, the compensation is to flare the rib cage, right? So what we're looking at is trying to keep that rib cage stacked, hand to the outside, elbow in, play with your different positions and shapes with your bottom feet. Then let's quickly drop in and contract, relax. And if you're ever worried about doing too much, 2 minutes of active end-range isometrics before you lift is never going to be the limiting factor. So if you're just hanging out here and hoping something magical happens, maybe you're going to be less effective. But we're always trying to tie the brain back into the mobilization. This end-range isometric concept is really important because it teaches me to what? Being able to manage my ventilation, to work on the arm as it relates to a full trunk and an empty trunk, and that isometric contraction and end range is a way of resetting that length-tension relationship of the musculature and getting my brain to enjoy the whole process, right? And be able to access that. So if I take a big breath here, rib cage down, I can pull in pull, 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 trying to pull my elbow down, stiffen the whole system, and then exhale and let that tension come out a little bit further. So it's okay if I come a little bit out of range. When I take a breath, 4-second inhale. Own that whole shape. 4-second contract. Hold, build tension. 8-second exhale. And I'm not coming off tension. This is strong stuff. I'm coming off tension slowly, which gives me a chance to adopt and let myself own this position, which would be what we call tempo. So a little bit of end range, a little contracted end range, a little bit of softening. And what you'll see is that it does radically improve your rotation in all aspects because we prioritize rotation through immobilization. So just like when we did rotation first, if we're just pulling your tissues to end range and not caring about how they rotate, you're missing out and losing a lot of opportunity. This is our short lever overhead band distraction.